Hey, welcome back. So, Caitlin, can you hear the music at all or not? That's so weird.
No, I can't. I think there is like some setting like where you can, so if you like play a video, like the meeting can hear it. I just don't know what setting that is.
I have to figure it out because I was assuming this is the first time I do this. I thought, well, if you can hear my voice, you should be able to hear anything else that happens.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
think it
interesting.
cuts out the outside or the outside noise. So you
Yeah,
can't, yeah, you can't hear it.
I mean, in a way, it's good because they're cutting the lawn
Eh,
across the street, and all I can hear is the. I'm like,
yeah,
oh
I
goodness,
can't hear that either.
thinking you're just gonna be thinking, what the heck is going on in that house? Okay, so welcome back. Now we get into more of the meat of the process. So here's where it all begins, Lauren, just for you. And for everybody else, because this is it recruitment can be, and it's not a piece of many immigration attorneys I think get involved with, because typically we just get, okay, here's, we hired this person, we gave them the offer letter, I want them to start tomorrow. And some of our clients, which is good, um, kind of get us involved a little bit ahead of that process, which is, I mean, for us, we're not charging to be involved in this part of the process. Um, because we only get retained when you actually hire foreign talent, unless it's someone that you really want us to get involved in the strategy of how to bring this person on board. But I think it is important in many cases to kind of bring in immigration attorneys in, um, at some point of this process if you have doubts, because if the recruitment, if you hire someone that you can't really, that is not beneficial for you to hire for some reason or another, you're just setting up yourself, um, for a problem, and it's impossible for you to know, um, everything that is happening in immigration. I'm gonna write myself a note about the TPS situation, so that you can kind of see where, there is where issues could come from. But so recruitment and onboarding, setting up for success. So I told you from the beginning that I was, at the beginning, that I was kind of taking a sample of a case, and then taking it from beginning to end, and hiring great talent. And this is kind of a semi-true quote, uh, from our client: hiring great talent doesn't end with an offer letter. And it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process with all of your hires. But to some degree, a little there's always positive, and there's a balance with your green card holders, your U.S. Workers that are U.S. citizens. Um, I mean, of course, the hiring process doesn't necessarily end at the offer letter. You're continuing to support and grow your workforce. With foreign talent, they typically stay, at least they tend to stay for longer, which is one of the advantages, that the stability that you get, with hiring foreign talent to some degree, because an H-1B is an initial stay of 3 years and then 6. And if you get into a green card process, then you're potentially looking at 10 and 11 years. I mean, the value of retaining a good skill, worker for that length of time is invaluable to the company. But it also comes with visa renewals and tracking expirations and travel abroad and engaging in the work visa to green card process. And that's why you're all here, so that you can learn all of these little pieces, at least in a more global, a general perspective, and then we can go deeper again on future workshops. So Envision is my employer that we're using as an example. Every now and architectural firm is inspired by my clients. I do a fair amount of work with, I will almost say at this time, 50% of 40% of our clients are in the architecture, engineer, construction kind of field. And then we do engineering, we do education, colleges, hospitals. So those are more, but it's not the bulk. So Envision firm, Shannon is our CHRO, Pearl is our foreign talent designer that was hired on F1 OPT EAD. Who can tell me what that means? F1 OPT EAD.
I guess I'll take a shot. So that's the work authorization for someone, yeah, as Carrie mentioned, right out of school.
Yeah, so you got it. So F1 is an international student, typically is F1 or M1. Most of you are going to see an F1. I have rarely seen in my 20 plus years an M international student. So I think they go into very specific fields. But F1, when that international student graduates, they are entitled to apply for an EAD, an employment authorization document. And they have, and I'll cover this later on, but as a general outline, they generally have 1 year of optimal practical training, that's the OPT, where they can work for that 1 year on that employment authorization document. So that's how Pearl was hired for Envision. She had just finished her U.S. master's degree in architecture in the United States, and she was using her first year of OPT EAD to work. So Lauren, for you, that is how many of the foreign talent is recruited. Many of our clients go to the universities and participate in fairs, student fairs or job fairs, or they directly apply if, for a job opening that is on LinkedIn or Indeed or whatever the job offers are posted. And so that's how they first entered into most of them, at least most of the ones that I work with. I also work with foreign talent that is abroad, but those are typically people that have a depth of experience. They're not just out of school. They have worked abroad. They have a track record, some sort of experience that is very unique, and they somehow get connected to the employer in the United States, again, because they know somebody or because they saw the job opening posted and they apply. Okay. Best practices: recruit, hire, retain. The first one is the strategic hiring, particularly, a strategic hiring for everybody, but particularly for foreign talent, because as you mentioned at the beginning of the game, it is an investment. It can cost money. It could be a gamble. So when I'm asked by our clients, how do you determine, and I want to hear your answers if they're different, if you have some other ideas, but it starts with your business plan, or the company business plan, the company vision, the company goals. Where do we see ourselves in, what projects, what contracts are we bidding for, what projects are we getting into, what is, the 1 year, 2, 3 year outlook. Forget 10 years, because the world's moving so fast that, whatever you plan for 10 years is going to change. But say a year, 2 or 3, do we have the talent to get us there? And that is, again, where the majority of the foreign talent that I work with, They're basically filling in gaps that you have on your vision plan. Or, you just received the project and you need 5 engineers that have very specific skills, and you can only find 3 in the US workforce to get you to where you need to be. And that is where global talent initially comes in. So strategic hiring, again, pre-hire planning, identify the talent needs, and then, sponsorship options and timeline. Because unlike US workers or green card holders, there's typically a gap between the time you decide to hire them and the time that they can start working for you in some cases. And we'll go through that in terms of the timeline. Many of your managers that are not in tune with this process think that they can just, the offer letter is signed and that the person will come start working for you in a week, or maybe 2 if they're working somewhere else. But with foreign talent, it's typically a little longer. And we'll go through that now. If they're on an employment authorization document, it could be a lot shorter. If we have to get an H-1B, it's going to be longer. Then the next piece is more of hire and retain. So when they come in, a smooth onboarding, and that is again where quite often we get involved even before they come in. So pre-boarding, I kind of call it. And again, many of our clients get us involved in pre-boarding, which is helpful because some of these foreign nationals, they have many questions, not all of them, but some of them are very anxious. There is a lot, imagine all of us have just general anxiety with everything that we watch on the news or not. For them, it's, their careers, their families, their lives. So they have a lot more going on. And they're very, some, not all, but they can be anxious about what is that going to mean for me? What is that going to mean for my future? What if I leave this employer and this other one doesn't work out? So they have some questions, and quite often we come in ahead and kind of, do a pre-conference call, get everybody together so that we are all aligned. And then culture integration. If you have already some foreign talent in your workforce, it's not as difficult because they can kind of connect with each other and they don't feel as bad. But if it's the only person that is from India out of 100 workers that are all US workers, sometimes it can be a little harder. So all those things are things that you kind of have to keep in mind. And then ongoing support, as I mentioned before, there's visa renewals, immigration goals, career track. They also want that. And then communication and partnership. I said to you, I am privileged to work with clients that I adore. All of you are part of that. And we have a really good relationship between HR, legal, managers, and foreign talent. And that is essential. It is impossible. You may have heard me say that I see it as a 3-legged stool where each one of us plays a role in this process. And that's what makes it successful. Okay, questions there? No. Okay. This can be a little tricky. Many of you, and let me know if you know, in your applications, you probably have these 2 questions. Are you legally authorized to work in the United States, or would you require sponsorship now or in the future? Is that something that is part of your applications? Yes or no?
It is for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Caitlin Porelli. Yeah. Okay. So, and those are the 2 questions that you're allowed to ask, because you have to be very careful not to get into discrimination issues. But those questions don't tell you a lot at the end of the day. If they're honest, they do. But if they're not honest or they don't understand the question, so of course, are you legally authorized to work in the United States? Hopefully they're going to say yes, and that is true. So I'm going to move on from that one. The one that can get tricky is, will you require sponsorship now or in the future? Okay. Those are out on EAD OPT. So do you remember that F1 OPT EAD that I asked you, what does that mean? Some of them are going to answer no to do you require sponsorship now or in the future, because they think, well, what is future? Future could be 2 weeks from now, and I have an EAD that is good for a year. So I don't have to answer yes. I could say no and I will be fine. And if they do, that's okay. You're going to get that. But if they're still in the school, at some point they are going to require a sponsorship. So just be careful when you're reviewing the answer to this question. Now, some of them are going to say yes, because they know that they need an H-1B or they need some sort of a work visa. And if that's the case, that's great. At least you know from the beginning that that's what you're going into. And I tell you, at the end of the day, our employers, if it is the person that they need and they want to hire, they go in and they hire that person knowing that they're going into a sponsorship situation. And that's great. Everybody knows where they stand. But if they answer no, and when you go into the application process, or hopefully not at the point of the I-9, and then you see that have an employment authorization document that ends in a year, then at some point that you're going to need to have a sponsorship. Now, you don't have to sponsor, and that's something that I want you to know. You can hire someone on their employment authorization document. There is no obligation to sponsor them in the future. And that's another reason why foreign talent, I believe, based on what our clients say, they're really good workers, because they know that their future depends on how they perform. So they tend to go above and beyond, not all, but in general, because they have a significant stake in the process. Okay. So those are, again, the two main questions, and how they can be tricky questions about this, because this comes up a fair amount in my practice. Have you run into issues with this before, or do you have questions about that? No? Okay. Okay. I-9 verification. So let's say that person said, no, I don't need a sponsorship. Oh, I'm raising my own hand. Let me lower my hand here. Okay. No, I don't need a sponsorship. Or even, no, let's say they said, yes, I do need a sponsorship. That's the easiest path. Yes, I do need a sponsorship. You know that you're going to hire them potentially. So let's say I'm going to take Pearl, our case scenario. Pearl said, yes, I need a sponsorship, but I have an employment authorization document now. She interviews, manager says, yes, she's the one we won. She has the background that we need. Remember, she has a U.S. master's degree. She came to you with already a bachelor's degree in architecture with sustainability major or minor from India, say. So she has a depth of knowledge that you're looking for, okay? When she comes in for the I-9 verification, so she's hired. We have 3 days to do the I-9 verification. You review a list A or B or C documents, not all three. And in most cases, she will give you an employment authorization document. It's just, and actually it's probably the easiest thing for them to give you, because if they give you a social security number, they typically have a driver's license, but their social security number is typically restricted, meaning it's going to have a little note that says not able to work without work authorization or something to that effect, that it has some sort of a restriction to it. So if you do receive one of those, you cannot accept it. They need to give you something else, like an employment authorization document. Okay. I believe most of you are on E-Verify, correct? Yes. Okay. And that actually as we go into the future, I'm being asked a lot about, what do we need to be aware of with the Trump administration, and we are going to be seeing some changes to potentially E-Verify and the I-9 process. So stay tuned. For now, just put that in the back of your mind. E-Verify may become national for, everybody. Right now is some states, this, the other. They're piloting something called E-Verify Plus. It has changed names various times. So I think the latest is that, which actually is really good for employers if they go with the path that I have seen. So that may be coming down the pipe. Now, because you have someone on an employment authorization document, and this is one of the things that you have to know and understand if you're recruiting foreign talent, is that they have expirations that they need to be tracked, and they need to be tracked proactively. Okay, and that typically falls on some of you. So tracking the expiration date. Now, when we work with our clients, we also track this for you. And when we meet with you, we go through the list and we say, hey, that one is expiring in 5 months. That one is expiring. So just to keep you ahead of the game, because you never want to be at the last minute, because nothing happens fast on immigration. So keeping track of the expirations is really important, because otherwise you need to put them on, on leave or take them off payroll because they cannot work. Okay. So tracking expiration dates and updating your records as this expirations pass and they get new employment authorization documents. If you have, and I've talked to some of you, if you have I-9s that you're concerned about, leery about, know that you only need to maintain them for at least 3 years from the day of hire or 1 year from the date of termination. So if you have some that old I-9s that the person has left a long time ago, now you don't want to destroy anything that doesn't need to be destroyed, but you don't want to keep liability around either. And we are going to be seeing more worksite enforcement. It's already happening. So just keep this in mind. Questions so far? And again, think about the stuff that happens to you day to day, and ask questions about that if that brings anything up. Okay. Fines for I-9s. Many employers think, oh, it's never going to happen to me. It doesn't happen in the architecture industry or design or engineering or this or the other. This administration is, their whole platform was about enforcement. So this is going to happen. It's going to happen more than it happened before. And the fines just keep on going up. It's a really easy way for the government to create fear and also get a lot of money into their arsenals of money. The paper violations, which are common, they start at $288. So, this workshop, already, if you can correct 1 or 2 I-9s, is paid for in a long, and if you get an audit, or at least giving you peace of mind. And what happens is every mistake costs money. So this 288 could be because the person didn't sign. So the person didn't sign, that's one mistake, that's 288. The person didn't check the box that says what status they were on, that's another 288. The employer didn't write in the documents correctly that they received as part of the I-9 compliance, the I-9 verification, that's another 288. It can get to 2,000 very, very quickly on just one I-9 form. Okay. So this is good to know. It's good to be aware that audits could happen, and they just be aware as you're doing your I-9s of mistakes. And we're going to go through some I-9s just to, again, raise your awareness. The other thing that is really good for you, and I know some of you don't need the credits for today, but you will get a certificate for being here. Those of you that won the credits, because we got SHRM credits and CHRC credits. Employer proactive good faith, meaning training, like what you're doing today, is something that you can use as a mitigating factor, okay? And I've used that all the time when we're dealing with ICE audits for our clients. If they're, I use any training that they have received, any proactive action that they took, internal audits before the government audit. You cannot do it after. That doesn't count as proactive good faith. Anything that you did before could be used as a mitigating factor. Okay, so this slide is important for you to understand the you know, the implications. So when you're talking to your managers, or you go back to your teams, the seriousness of this. Okay, hands-on detective. And actually, when I looked at the samples that we put in here, I realized that you have the corrected and the incorrected versions are here. So let's try to be as honest as we can be. So when you open the resources that we have for you, go to the one that says I-9F1 CPT incorrect version, and open that up. Do you all have access to that? This is the link that Danny put on the chat. Now, we didn't talk about CPT, so we talked about F1 OPT EAD. Who can tell me about what CPT is? Terrence, you may win
Yep.
a prize.
I guess I think CBT is when the foreign national is still currently in school, so they didn't get their degree yet.
Okay. So CPT is curriculum practical training, is still part of the F1 path. So they are students, they're international students, but as Terrence says, they are still taking classes. So they can go to CPT, and part of their curriculum, and this is a kind of a unique situation, and we're going to talk about it more when we go into the F1 section, but they're typically the training that they're receiving at the work site with you, it is part of the curriculum for their studies. Okay, so that's why it's CPT. So do you all have access? Have you all opened the one that says sample I-9 F1 CPT? Yes. Okay. Just kind of glance at it and let me know, and this is the new form. What do you see? Let's look at part one. And actually, I'm looking at this for the first time with you. So we may let's see if as a team we can figure out what's wrong here. Who can tell me one of the things that they see on section one? And there's, I mean, of course there's right or wrong, but it doesn't matter. You're not getting graded. Oh, Carrie, thank you. The signature dates. Let's see, because again, I'm looking at this for the first time with you. 131, 131. Huh. First day of employment, 131.24. I'm gonna look. So one of the things, the first day of employment, it says, and this is actually in section 2, and I don't know, Carrie, if that's the ones that you were looking at, but it says first day of employment 131.24. And the HR specialist did the verification on 03/01/24. What is wrong with that?
I'm looking at in section 1, RP signed in 2021 and it was the section 2, it was certified in 2024.
Right, so I don't know which one, so I see, mine says 2024,
For RP?
yeah.
Oh, I'm looking on your screen.
Yeah, but you do have a point there, though. So over 3 days. So, I mean, let's look at those dates. So RP signed on 0/31/24 on the one that I'm looking at. First day of employment was 1/31/24, and the HR verification was on 03/01. This is way before over 3 days. So that is a problem. That's a big problem. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying, Carrie. I'm sorry. You're looking at the screen. Yeah, that I think that's our own mistake on the slide. So I'm looking at the one. Okay, I see it. That would have been really bad. I'm looking at the one on the Bolt that you guys received, which is different. I'm sorry, it's different than the one that is on the screen. So on the one on the resources that you received, we have it beyond 3 days. Danny, just make a note of that to this slide. Slide 18 should match the one that we have on the resources, so that we're kind of looking at the same thing. But Carrie, you're correct. I mean, that's a big problem. There is something else on section 1 that is a problem on the one that is on the ones that is under the resources. And there's a bigger one. Okay, let me give you the answers. And again, I'm going to look at the corrected version and see what we have, because I'm doing this with you. But a non-citizen, so let's look at the number 4, a non-citizen other than items 2 and 3, authorized to work until, that number is critical, and there's nothing there. Okay. And then underneath that, it says, if you checked item number 4, enter one of these 3, the USCIS number, the Form I-94 number, or the foreign passport number and country of issuance. All of that is blank. Okay. So already we have 1, 2, 3 mistakes at a minimum. And then look at section 2. Would you have expected something there? Right? I mean, that's the most essential thing. And I see this a fair amount. They tell me, well, I have a copy of the employment authorization document. Why do I need to fill that out? Well, it is what it is. It's part of filling out this form. Okay. So in this particular case, I'm assuming this person would have had, actually, they are on a CPT, which CPT does not have an EAD, although I think the sample that we gave you next has an EAD. Well, let me go back here. Yeah, no, so we on the sample is correct. Someone on CPT does not have an EAD, so it's a combination of documents, and that should have been filled out. And then how many of you are doing remote verifications? The virtual verifications? No? Okay. In case you do, Caitlin, are you?
Yeah, like e-verification, yes.
Yeah, okay. So if you do, there is this little box at the bottom of the additional information that I see that quite often I see them unchecked when I do audits. But if you are doing virtual verification of the alternative procedure, that should be checked. Okay. All right. I'm going to go to the corrected version that you also have in your package. And again, so we see there that number 4 is checked, and we have a date, 5/15/2024. We have a foreign passport, and then Danny also that says and country of issuance. So I'm almost correcting this as we're doing this. So it should have said the foreign passport / or whatever, India. So it should have said, or Netherlands, actually, that's what the passport is from. And then list A, again, because this person is on their CPT, they have a combination of documents. And that would be the foreign passport, the I-94 record, and the Form I-20, which is what they get in school as part of their program authorizing the CPT, okay? This is a complicated one, and of course you can't correct the today's date, that was, the past 3 days. I would probably do an addendum to this and say, put a memorandum on, on an audit, we discover that, the dates, that the verification was done, out of the timeline. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe you have an e-verify record that you did do it the right day. So if you see something like this, you should do a little bit more investigation and see if there was a reason that you can explain why it was more than 3 days. And if that is the case, to add something to the record to explain it. Okay. Questions there? I know it's a lot, and this is why I felt that I'll do another session with you that is just an hour to kind of, as you go through this, that you can decide, oh my gosh, I really want to know or need to know more of this. So I'm not going to go through the second example. The second example is a lot easier, but I want you to look at it on your own. So the next one is an I-9 from an F1 STEM OPT. And I gave you an incorrect version. Now you already have some ideas as to what to look for. And I also gave you a corrected version under the resources for you to look at and see if you have questions on that. Okay. So you also have, so on the resources, you have the CPT correct and incorrect. You have an STEM OPT extension correct and incorrect. And then you have a re-verification of an EAD that is correct. Okay. Tons of good resources for you. Let's see. Okay, so that's kind of what we just did. Key takeaways before we take a quick little break. One thing that you've learned. Tell me or put it in the chat. And then you get a break. Come on. We learn what EAD and CPT stand for. Yeah, and that's important. That's really important. I learned about the fines. Yeah, for I-9s and CPT EAD. Nice. Okay. What else? I put this out here also just to give you some ideas of, if you're like, oh my God, we cover so much. We went through, just to give you some more ideas. Wow, we cover a lot. So we covered beyond the offer letter, we covered the strategic hiring and pre-hire planning, the smooth onboarding, partnership between all the parties involved and communications, the questions that you're allowed to ask and where can that be tricky. Then we cover the timeline compliance. We'd cover the, in general, acceptable documents, the e-verify, re-verification, record keeping. We cover the new levels of fines, the employer's proactive good faith. And then we kind of took a look at a good I-9, incorrect I-9, and yeah. So do I have any more answers, Lauren? The fines for the I-9s and the need to complete an I-9 audit, absolutely, yeah. Learn that I have lots to learn. That's why you're here. This is inspired by all of you. So I am thrilled. And again, I want you to, I'm doing this so that hopefully, again, at the end of each session, for your own benefit, you can say, okay, out of this piece, this is what I learned, and it's good. Okay, so you heard me say, I'm writing, this is literally, that's the cover of the book. The Corporate Immigration Advantage, How to Hire, Retain, and Thrive with Global Talent in a Competitive World. Hopefully all of you will stay with me to the end, because I will give, whenever, one of you are going to get this book signed as a gift for being here with me. So stay tuned. I'm going to give you a 10-minute break, and we're going to come back at 11:02. And we're going to go through F1 to H1B, so university to work visa. All right. Love it, Carrie. See you soon. Bye.